But thank you for watching this. If anybody ever does, who knows? Mainly these are for me right now. It's how I get through the day. I do these, and I want to do them with a point. See, there goes the cat now. And the instigation for this one is hope hits. Well, let's rewind because the news happens so fast that another reason I want to do these videos is to capture a moment in time because these moments happen so rapidly. And there's the cat again. All right, so right now it's June 24th. It's Wednesday, June 24th, 2019. Uh, the Mueller report. The Mueller report began in May 2017 when the names just blank out of me. James Comey, that guy, the tall one, yeah, the FBI director. When he got fired, I guess what happened is he was in charge of the Russian investigation. The president fires him and pretty much says on national TV, I fired him because of the Russia investigation. The Department of Justice trying to figure out what to do next because obviously you have this open investigation going. The president clearly not pleased in general. You can't just go on with business as usual. If you're the deputy FBI director, clearly you probably knew, which was Andrew McCabe. Clearly he would have had some kind of conflict of interest. It could be argued. And so what to do with this investigation turned into the Mueller report. It was all handed over to a special prosecutor who was working within the executive branch as an internal review of continuing what Comey was investigating with Russia attempting to involve themselves in our 2016 election. But now added on to that was this possibility, witting or unwittingly, that the president was helping things out and maybe being involved a little more than he should be involved. So the basic timeline is, May 27th, the investigation began. Mueller didn't say a word for over 2 years. And I mean, there were numerous tweets. There was Republicans and Giuliani and the president all trying to get him riled up, to get him to respond, to get him to become political. And he avoided it the whole time. I mean, hats off to him. The restraint and professionalism that he showed was amazing. And as time went on, and there were indications in 2019, the midterms happened, and it was clear that nothing would happen around the midterms because law enforcement professionals usually don't want to involve themselves in any kind of political process. So it was kind of understood that between August and November of 2018, there would be nothing from Robert Mueller, let alone the actual report. So the election happens, 2019 rolls around. March 22nd, it was a Friday, 5 p.m. after all the news has already been, everyone's home for the weekend. It was announced that the Mueller report, that Robert Mueller was done with his investigation, that the report was in. And the report, being an internal executive branch investigation, was given to the Attorney General, William Barr, who had just been appointed probably within a couple months. And so on Friday, I believe it was March 22nd, at 5 p.m., literally after all the newspapers have gone to bed and everybody's in for the weekend, William Barr announces, hey, I have the report. It's a great report. I'm going to look it over, and we'll go from there. But for now, hey, I've got it. The report's done. Everyone's okay. I'm trying to remember now what we thought would happen. I mean, the fact that William Barr made the announcement, maybe that should have been a warning in itself, that he was now that it wasn't the Mueller report was in, or the Mueller report was finished. The news was William Barr, the Attorney General, now has the Mueller report. He became the subject of the sentence instead of the Mueller report. So maybe that should have been a warning at the time, but I mean, I know for me, I thought it would simply be, okay, it was Barr making the announcement because no one else was going to. And also, I always thought Robert Mueller would do whatever he could to be the anti-Ken Starr. He had done that the entire 2 years by not saying a word, because Ken Starr, during the Clinton investigation, made himself daily part of the story. Every day, he'd come in with that damn Starbucks Venti cup, going into work and smiling, and he'd give a little hint or, this or that to the reporters. And when the report was done, he was front and center. He was the face of it proudly. He was the Starr report. And he testified, and he stood up for every word of it, to his credit. But ultimately, he became, even as the investigation was going on, there were clear signs that he was not apolitical, or at least he was being cast that way. And he did nothing, and his actions did nothing to counter that image that this was all a political hit job. And I think Robert Mueller saw that. And I mean, I don't know how much consciously, but all the way up to when the report was done, he had been very much the anti-Ken Starr. And so Barr making the announcement, not Mueller, that seemed in line with keeping his anti-Ken Starr game plan going. So, okay, so Friday, Barr, hey, breaking news, I have received the Mueller report. Okay. Well, Sunday night, I mean, within 48 hours, Barr's on the horn to the world saying, hey, I've read the thing, nothing to it. I mean, there were words. He didn't even quote, I love Nicole Wallace over and over again, just infuriated that Barr, in his 3-4 page memo, couldn't even quote an entire complete sentence from the Mueller report. That he couldn't even quote an entire sentence. It was all him saying, nothing to see here, just nothing. Why even? It's done. He looked, and so of course this gave President Trump the victory lap, and Fox News is all ecstatic, and Robert Mueller is the greatest guy ever now. This is they're big fans of his, because he spent all the money, he did his job, didn't find anything, okay. And then I guess like the next snippet of news we heard, but we're like, you know what? People were like, okay, but we spent money on this, as the president clearly likes to bring up. We spent millions of dollars on this investigation. We should at least take a peek, just for ourselves, not questioning anybody, but let's just look through it. Well, then we found out, probably within about a week, that it was like 485 pages. And this is when, because the Starr report was, 400 or 500 pages, and so we're like, oh, well, okay, 400 to 500, that's not a random, nothing to see here document. That's a lot of nothing in 2 volumes. And it took probably a full 3 weeks before the unredacted version finally came out. And even then, we still didn't hear from Robert Mueller. We didn't hear from anybody. There was no one to... And, well, let me finish the narrative. So, okay, finally Barr's like, okay, fine, here's the report. Here. And people who actually read it were flat out outraged at the Attorney General, because he was just wrong. And even when he publicly testified under oath, he said really not just partisan things, but dumb partisan things. Dumb things that if he had gone on Fox News as a analyst, even the Fox News host would have been like, you're kind of full of crap. Because I remember he tried to excuse, well, look, President Trump, maybe he bumbled into some obstruction, but you got to understand, he was under a lot of pressure. He was a newbie. No, I mean, that, like I said, that's a poor defense, even from your actual defense, let alone from someone who is a government paid, representing all people, attorney general, supposed to be, apolitical here, professional. So he just continued. I mean, so by then it was very clear that he was not acting, he was acting as President Trump's defense lawyer. That Trump found his guy. Well, now I can't even remember what instigated it, but so March 24th was a Sunday. That was when Barr said, hey, nothing to see here. It's probably middle of April that the actual report came out and people could actually read it for themselves. It was probably not until end of May that Robert Mueller actually finally spoke. And even then, ostensibly, officially, he was only speaking because it was the official end of the investigation. They were officially turning out the lights and no one would be home anymore. But he also used that moment to kind of undercut Barr to start getting out the actual version of what they intended. But while he provided some details, he also said at that time that this was all he was going to say about it. He wanted the report to speak for itself. He did not, again, I keep going back to this, he did not want to be Ken Starr. He did not want to be, no pun, the star of the show. So Congress had to act. And thank God they finally, I've been very, very frustrated, and I'm not even saying it's their fault, but I mean, the election was in November. We had the blue wave. We did it. The nation did it. We put a lot of hope and faith in this Congress to change things, to shine some light. And for 6 months, it really felt like no different. There was no actual different outcome. And that really exemplified itself. Again, what was my boiling point was last Wednesday, the White House has been completely just ignoring Congress, just ignoring them. Congress will say, we want you to testify, and they'll say no. And they'll say, well, here's a subpoena, and they'll say no. Now, I've forgotten that Don McGahn just completely blew off Congress, didn't even bother to show up to say no. And maybe I should have been outraged at that, but for whatever reason, last Wednesday, Hope Hicks, to use the Cardi B term, Hope Hicks dog walked, no, sorry cats, but that's the term, dog walked Congress. She just strided through Congress, didn't answer a frickin' word, didn't talk to the reporters. She owned the building. And I know I'm like Trump when I go up and down on one news cycle, and I can't do that. But she won. They won. And it really pissed me off. But now this Wednesday, a week later, we have the news that Robert Mueller will testify publicly. Congress, thank you. And I just hope. I got to keep the expectations down, but I'm at least, even small steps forward are steps forward. Just keep moving forward, even no matter what's in front of you, even if it's a small step. So, thank you, and we'll do some more. Thanks.